Why Elite Dangerous? Why not Elite 4? Why not Frontier 3? First Encounters 2 or whatever? Now, the problem is, and this is a sort of slightly embarrassing confession, the Elite 4, I had talked about it for a long time because I've wanted to make it a long time. We've had the odd discussion on and off with publishers, but fundamentally they've come to nothing. And it's largely because they say, well, we want creative control, this is the publisher, we want, and I know what will happen is it will go down a railroad, it would have gone down a railroaded path to something that wasn't the game that we wanted to make. But the point is, this is Elite 4, no bones about it, but I wanted something that was a fresh start, and we looked at the story behind the other names. So Frontier, it was because the key thing with Frontier versus Elite is the action takes place on the periphery, on the frontier. Because logically, from a story perspective, if you imagine sort of cowboy, semi-lawless worlds, they will tend to be on the frontier of human space. The core systems will be a lot more secure. You wouldn't get unruly systems so close. It would be a bit like, having, anarchies in central London, or maybe I don't know, maybe that is true, I suppose, but you see what I mean. And so the story behind Elite Dangerous, right from the start, is we had to think, and this is where we sort of move slightly out of the game world and think about how we address players. One of the problems with multiplayer games that I've played and have seen issues with is where you have player versus player kills, and you have griefing and all of those things that come along with it, which spoils the gameplay for the majority, where you have a few antisocial players. So we've been thinking about how we can structure the game rules that work within the story, where we have a way of addressing the issues of player versus player against player versus environment. Because right from the start, we didn't want the sort of thing where the player makes a decision to play on a PvP server, a PvE server, like you see on some games. And what we have done is we've extended the the Federation of Pilots. This is an organization in the game where, think of it almost like a pilots' union. Every single player in the game is a member of this. Every single AI is not a member. So you already have this organization that puts bounties on the heads of people who kill its members. We have a way of differentiating, without breaking out of the story, a response, so the game can respond differently to people who are griefing players versus griefing AIs. I mean, clearly a game about piracy and attacking ships, you're going to have to do that. But we're structuring it in a way that where there is an advantage in trying to go against AIs more so than against other players. And so that player-player interactions tend to be cooperative more so than competitive. So, within the Federation of Pilots, a giant organization by the year 3300, which is when Elite Dangerous is set, there is a subgroup called the Elite Federation of Pilots. And this group is made up of all of those people, or was made up, that had reached the rank of Elite. Imagine in the previous games, it took flipping ages. And how many here actually genuinely reached Elite? I can't see any hands. Oh, so someone here. Yeah, a few people did. Well, I know the feeling. Embarrassing confession, I never did. It took so long. Obviously, I tested it, but I never genuinely did it without using cheats. And the point is, imagine in real life where you have a system that is, let's face it, it's a kill counter, which I think is morally dubious anyway. But that aside, it's essentially a time-serving thing rather than an ability test. So if you postulate that there were such a real thing, every sort of El Presidente or whatever, when he wants his daughter taking to somewhere dangerous, or they're going to want her to be taken by a pilot who's an elite pilot, someone. So imagine there are masses of people, of contracts going out for jobs to be done where they want an elite pilot. Most of those elite pilots know full well that the people who've reached the ranks of dangerous and deadly are just as good as them at flying, but just haven't served the time. So imagine if this secretive organization actually has a test to admit people with lower sort of ratings into their organization who can fulfill these contracts, and they can grant them an elite status. So that is what Elite Dangerous is. It's where you are part of the Elite Federation of Pilots, and you're offered to be admitted to it, and you'll be able to do this within a game. But you're still at a lesser rank. So it's a bit like the British Navy, for example, where you had the concept of a defaced ensign. For those of you who may not know, British military ships can fly a different flag. And people can also fly that privately, but it's defaced to say that this isn't full military ship. So it's the same sort of principle as that. Anyway, that is why it's the title of the game, because that's so key to all the way the multiplayer plugs together.